So again, I'm not totally sure what I put in this, so bear with me. This is my email address, just to start out with. I guess I should have put it at the end, but if you do have any questions later on or want to email me, I'm absurdly good with emails, so if you want to write it down, feel free. I respond to emails within like a couple hours. It's kind of bad. So here we go. Alright, so choosing a major. I wasn't looking around when Amy asked the question, but I'm guessing that the reason that most of you are here is because you don't really know what major you want to pick. And honestly, in terms of medical school, based on my experience, I've spent the last 3 months probably flying across Canada and interviewing at a bunch of different places. And the amount of diversity that I've seen over these last few months in terms of medical school applicants is absurd. You will get people from every different possible major. It's kind of ridiculous, actually, and it's really, really neat. Because you can go and speak to all these people and share interests or whatever, and really, I think what medical schools are looking for, like a couple of people said before me, is someone who is unique and who is really passionate about what they're doing. So first thing is interest. If you pick your major just because you think, oh, a degree in physiology is going to impress med schools, oh, a degree in biochemistry is going to impress med schools, but you don't really like either of those things, you're going to be miserable and you're going to switch out, guaranteed. And that's not really a route you want to take. If there's something really cool that you're interested in that you want to do, go for it. Like, seriously, go for it. Make sure you go out all your prerequisites, but definitely, definitely go for it. Which leads me to my second point, which is prerequisites. So are you going to have time to finish up your required courses? Do you want to have electives or a minor? So really what you need to do is you do need to plan it out. There are a lot of resources on campus. The Science Undergraduate Advising Office has been great helping me plan out my degree. It's really something, you do need to look ahead, especially if you're planning to explore a couple of different fields. If you're interested in research, something that I've found really helpful, and in microbiology and immunology, is that microbiology and immunology has a really low student-to-professor ratio. We don't have a lot of students. They admit, I think, 120 per year. And we have a lot of profs, associate profs, adjunct professors, whatever, and most of them actually accept undergraduates into their lab. So microbiology has been really beneficial in that way. I know that a few of the other science departments have similar things going on. And courses. So like Leora was saying before me, you have to look at the course list. Like if you absolutely hate physical chemistry and biochemistry, you have to take 2 courses. If you love virology, microbiology and immunology might be a good choice. If you hate immunology, microbiology and immunology might be a bad choice. You have to look through the courses. You have to take the time and go through and find what you're interested in and what courses absolutely disgust you. And that's, seriously, it's going to be very helpful. So choosing a major, people have said it before me, I'm going to say it again, you have to do what you love. You're going to be spending 3 years taking courses in this subject. You really want to like what you're doing. What you choose doesn't matter. Like I've said, I've seen people from all different kinds of majors in med school interviews. Med schools won't care if you major in, well, any of the biomedical science fields, even psychology, arts. I have a friend who's 4th year medical school who majored in international relations. You get all kinds of stuff. So as long as you have your good GPA, your prerequisites that are required, and your good MCAT score, to the best of my knowledge, it does not matter. So, and what's more, when you're interviewing, they're going to ask you about your major. They're going to ask you about your experience in undergrad, and passion is something that's really going to come across. If you're going off about a course and, oh, it was such a great experience, and you just don't seem sincere, that does not come off well. So it's really better not to have to fake it in a situation like that. So med school prerequisites, just something to touch on briefly. All the schools that I applied to required 2 semesters, first year biology, chemistry, physics, and calculus. So you guys are here, you have been here for a year, most of you probably already have those requirements. Generally, med schools also require at least 1 semester of organic chem. Most med schools also require 2. I would really recommend taking the 2nd semester of organic chem based on my experience with the MCAT, and as an MCAT instructor, it is really, really useful. So it's definitely something to consider taking. It's, yeah, a really good idea to take these, another semester of organic. Biochem 311 and 312 were actually required by UBC when I applied there. And Physiology 209, or 210 and Anatomy 214 are courses that are generally looked upon favorably by medical schools. And also, they're really, really interesting and medically relevant. So if you're into medicine, you're probably going to like these courses. Okay. So Physio 209, 210. It's not a walk in the park. It's not really an easy course, especially if you're taking it in U1. I took actually one in U2, one in U3. It was a bit easier for me. But a lot of people I know who took it directly in U1 struggled with it a bit. But in a way, it's really refreshing. It's really interesting stuff. It's very medically relevant, and it's really well taught, which is something you can appreciate when you go up through the upper level courses and have some of the older scatterbrain professors going on. Anatomy 214, I haven't actually taken this one, but I've heard amazing things. It's also tough, but practice in histology, anatomy, things like that are going to help you later on in med school. There's TA opportunities for both of those, actually. Social studies and medicine. The courses are supposed to be fantastic. Again, I haven't had the opportunity to take any of them, but they're supposed to add an interesting layer of medicine that you don't see in science courses, and Jim was talking about those earlier. So if you have the opportunity, it's something that's definitely very cool to look into. Upper level courses, so 400 and 500 level courses, it is something of a myth that med schools are going to look at the courses that you take. Med schools will get in some cases, between 2,000 and 3,000 applicants. They're not going to go through every single transcript and pick out who took the most 500 level courses. That said, it is a good idea to take a couple, firstly because they're really interesting. They're taught by people who are experts in the fields. Like Michelle was saying before me, like some of this stuff isn't even in textbooks yet. It's really, really fascinating stuff. And also, having one or two, it does look good. So, good electives. MUAR. We've heard these ones before. So, the art of listening and basic materials of Western music. These are really, really easy if you have a music background. I actually am not someone to condone easy electives. I actually took basic materials of Western music this semester because I knew I'd be traveling around a lot. And it's actually been fun. It's really interesting. It's pretty cool. And I actually have a very strong music background as well, so I found it very, very easy. That said, I cannot imagine doing that course without a music background. It's moving pretty fast. So it's something to look into. It's something to look through the course description before you go into. Linguistics 200 I took and really, really enjoyed. It's not an easy A, but it's scientific enough that it's not completely foreign to science students. A lot of science students tend to shy away from arts courses because they're worried they're going to have to write a paper, it's going to be subjective, etc., etc. Linguistics isn't like this. Linguistics is almost like math in a lot of ways. So it's less daunting to science students, and it gives you that valuable art elective experience, which a lot of med schools, honestly, are looking for. A bit more of a well-rounded perspective. Language courses. First of all, knowing a second or third language always looks really great when you're applying to med school. Also, they're usually more assignment-type work. So you'll go into a class and you'll have assignments that are worth 10, 20, 30% of your grade. This means it's not going to be something like 30% midterm, 70% final. You've got more of a chance to make your mistakes, to make up the work, and to practice a bit more. You're forced to keep up with it a bit more. And a lot of the time, this is an easier way to go than cramming an entire course in the last 2 weeks. Psychology courses. Psych 100 is really, really easy. Perception and cognition are also pretty easy and also very, very cool, medically relevant, something that a lot of you are probably into. So I definitely recommend looking into those courses. 396. So over my time at McGill, research has kind of been my thing. I have done a lot of research. I have spent a lot of time in the lab. I did my 396 course actually in the second semester of my U2 year, so I'd already been in the lab for about a year and a half at that point. It's 3 credits 1 semester, offered by most of the science departments, like people have been saying. So you find a supervisor, if the supervisor signs off, you do a project in their lab. The problem with 396 is that it is not very structured. You go in and they say, oh, well, you want a paper at the end of the year that's worth 50%, and we want your supervisor to give you 50% based on that performance. So there are no guidelines as to what you should be trying to undertake. There are no guidelines as to what sort of project they want you to do. There are no guidelines as to whether you should be shadowing a graduate student versus having your own project. So it is really important.